I've been live streaming myself on Twitch, sharing the gospel for almost 6 years now. And we didn't start our church till about a year and a half later. So when I first started streaming and didn't have a church to send people to, I would just encourage people like, hey, just go to a church in your area. And then really our church started out of a need because a lot of people would show up to church in like a Dungeons and Dragons shirt and they would get those looks. And we would get emails like, hey, I went to a church that you said, like, looked up one of my ear, and I did. And they like told me I needed to like change my shirt and then come back. I'm never going back there again.
Hey, and welcome back to From the Garoffice with Micah Foster. That is my name. I am the lead pastor of a church called Two Cities Church. And just like everybody else, we've had to make a digital switch in the last month or so because of COVID-19. Now, I've been having conversations with people who are digital ministry leaders, and I've got a lot of great podcasts coming down the pipeline. I'm really excited about it. But today I had a fascinating conversation with a pastor who's the pastor of GodSquad Church, and the church is exclusively on Twitch. That's right, Twitch TV, the online streaming platform for gamers. They created this church to reach gamers. It's incredible. They have over 3,000 people that are pretty involved or engaged in their church, and it's all online. So I hope you enjoy this conversation.
Yeah, so my name is Matt Souza, and online I go by SouZy Live. It is my gamer name that I've been going by for quite some time. I have the honor and privilege to be married to, in my opinion, the most beautiful woman in the world, Amanda. We met at North Point Bible College. We both graduated studying for ministry. We both double majored. She graduated with worship music, as well as biblical degree. And I graduated with pastoral ministries, my biblical degree. After college, we moved to Connecticut and worked at a church. I was an associate pastor. My wife was on staff as well. And it was all in that time that really I had started kind of really coming to terms with who God had made me be in terms of my love for gaming. If you are familiar with the gaming world, you probably are aware that most people don't think very positively about the hobby of video games. Right. Most people, when they think of gaming, they think, oh, well, if you're a gamer, you're going to grow up, be irresponsible, live in your mother's basement, and probably not hold down a job for very long. And so I've been gaming life, but I never wanted people to think that of me for obvious reasons, especially studying to become a pastor. And so for a long time, I had either just not told people I played video games, or I just stopped playing altogether because I was like, maybe it's even wrong. Like, I'm studying to be a pastor. I'm working at a local church, you know. It might sound funny, but serious thought of what will people do if they find out what I do when I go home and I play video games? Are people going to respect one of their pastors when he has this big time-wasting, irresponsible hobby? And God really began to work in my heart during that time to help me understand that what gaming is not bad. It's simply a neutral, right? There's so many things in life that could be used for good or be used for bad. Now, certain video games are just bad, and we don't play those, and we recommend people don't play them either. But gaming as a whole is a hobby that, depending on how you use it, determines its worth. And so God began to help me understand, obviously, my identity, that my identity is not found in being a gamer or being a child of the living God. And God really began to put a passion in my heart to connect with all the billions of people in the world who had been feeling the way that I felt, not telling their coworkers that play video games out of fear of being thought of the way that I've been. And so I had never really dived into the world of like online gaming all that much. I just kind of played video games by myself. And I began to research, okay, how many gamers are actually in the world? And today when you do research, you find there are 2.2 billion gamers worldwide.
Wow.
And that's an astronomical number. If you were to really consider the gaming community to be a nation, it'd be by far the largest nation in the world. And this stat is actually 5 years old, but 5 years ago, which it's skyrocketed since then, 5 years ago, gamers were putting in a total of 1.56 trillion hours of video games a year. It's 30 billion hours a week. Massive number, massive number. Now, obviously, we can have our conversations about, is that the best use of time or not? And obviously, in a lot of ways, no, it's not, because some people are addicted. Some people are neglecting their responsibility. That's obviously a reality. It's not every gamer. And here at GodSquad Church, we encourage people that responsibilities, video games do not need. We need to play them in a wise way. But the truth is, whether we like that fact or not, the fact is we have billions of people that are sitting in chairs like I am, looking at a screen and not in the local church. And we can either just say that that's wrong and they shouldn't do that, or we can do something about it. We can do what Jesus did. We can go to where the people are at. And it really paused me to ask the question of, how do we get the gospel to people who don't leave their house? How do we get the gospel to people who just sit in a chair and watch a screen all day? In my opinion, I believe that Jesus would have put himself on that screen. Jesus would have put himself on that screen so people were consuming his content, hearing his word, hearing his gospel, but he would have done it by meeting the people. And so my wife and I, for 5.5 years, have just been on a journey of reaching gamers all around the world from all demographics, white, black, male, female, homosexual, atheist, any person we can tell the gospel to on the internet, we've been doing. And it's been a wild adventure. It's been a wild adventure for sure. God's been blessing us.
So, all right. So is the name of your church GodSquad Church?
Correct.
So
Correct.
You guys, do you have a physical location as well?
So we were going to launch our first one. It was like an extension of our online campus, March 21st, and then COVID-19 hit. And so that's been postponed until obviously this is over.
Right. And and where is that located?
It'll be in Midlothian, Virginia. And so we've had a vision to plant our first physical location, our second campus. We consider our online campus our first campus.
Okay.
For a very, very long time. And our vision was always to have a physical location with what's called a LAN center. Are you familiar with what a LAN center is?
So LAN gaming, like in person, you've got the network that you can play. You don't have to play through the internet.
Correct.
Sort of thing.
So we've purchased several high-end PCs and consoles, and we're actually going to have a LAN center as the lobby of our church, where after church, everyone's going to sit down, game together, hang out. We take that inspiration from Acts 2, I believe it's 46, where the Bible says they continue to meet together daily in the temple courts. And the reality is, you're probably aware of this as a pastor of a church, that a lot of times when you say amen at the end of your sermon, I mean, people just can't get out fast enough. Some people they're in their car driving away. I'll see you next week if we even make it till then. And for a lot of people, there's a lack of that gathering together, especially on a daily basis. Most of church nowadays is just Sunday. I'll see you next Sunday. See you next Sunday.
Right.
And there's no gathering the believers throughout the week. And that LAN center, that gaming, because that's what gamers do. They sit down, and it sounds awkward. It sounds weird, but while we're playing, Halo and Call of Duty and having action-packed games, like people are talking about life. Like, hey, so how's your marriage? Oh, it's going pretty well. Shoot that guy in the face. Hey, how are your kids doing? Hey, one of my kids is struggling. And they're having real life conversation while just kind of playing background view. And that's what's happening online. And that's what will be happening in our lobbies, a place for people to sit down and truly connect, play video games with their pastor, play video games with their friend, and give them a reason not to run out of the building on a Sunday, Saturday, right after service is over, to be able to connect together.
So, I mean, I experienced a similar thing. What I tell our host team, our guest services, is that as soon as the service is over, I make a beeline for that door.
Good for you.
And I try to say bye to everybody. Even if we have guests halfway out through the building, I'll be like, thanks for coming. I'm like trying to get some sort of connection with the people before they leave, because I don't want people just to sit, in the row and then leave. I want them to have community, or at least have the opportunity for community. So yeah, I totally understand that. So, I think I play a little bit on my phone, right? So I've got,
you're a casual gamer.
I'm very casual, right? So very casual and don't have a lot of time for it, but little COD mobile, right? Little something like that.
Nice.
My son likes Fortnite, of course. He's 10. Yep. He loves Fortnite. So my question, and so obviously I don't have an issue playing violent games.
Sure.
Right. So even when I remember in my college days, it was Counter-Strike. Okay. So
yeah, big game.
And it was in the dorms. So we had a LAN network in the dorms basically. Right. Anyway. So my question to you is, and you probably get this all the time, or at least you have in the past at some point, the violent games.
Sure.
All right. So this is the number one concern of parents in gaming, besides the irresponsibility and addiction stuff that could come up. The number one concern of people is, okay, the violent acts that happen in the games. How are we reconciling, that with what we see in the world and what we don't want our kids to actually do, or what we
Sure.
don't want to actually do in the real world.
For sure.
Give you a chance to give your 2 cents on that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, one, especially coming from a parent's perspective, one thing I want to encourage parents on is, one, if there are certain video games that you don't want your kids playing, you simply don't have to let them play it, right? Mm-hmm. There are certain video games that have, actually every video game has what's called an ESRB rating, which means a lot of these violent video games are rated M for mature, 17 plus. And so I definitely would encourage parents to do their research on the video games that their children are consuming, right? Especially as, for example, you said your son is 10 years old. If there was a violent video game that your son wanted to play and you didn't want to play it, not only can you not play it, he can't afford to get it, right? And so I definitely want to encourage parents. There are resources out there to look into the games that your children are consuming, because every parent has the right to determine what they want for their kid and what they don't want for their kid. So one, I would definitely encourage you to be checking those ESRB ratings. And if your son or daughter is not 17, you don't have to, obviously. You can recommend that they don't play it and not allow them to play it. But in terms of the whole violence in the video games, I think that video games have gotten a negative stigma as if video games are the only source of just violent content in the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, parents were sitting down and watching, action-packed movies with violence, but then don't associate the movies. It's just the video games that kind of get that bad rap. And to an extent, I do get that, because a movie might last an hour and 45 minutes, but they might play that video game for 100 hours over the course of 2 months' time. And so definitely want to be monitoring what your child is consuming. But I think just the violence needs to be broken down a little bit as to what type and why is there violence in the video game. I think even just biblically, we need to understand that there's a difference between killing and murder, that they're actually not the same. And so murder is a hate-filled, vengeance, rage-induced, motivated type of killing. And there's killing that goes on in video games that has nothing to do with anything I just said. For example, Fortnite. Your son plays Fortnite. He's not filled with rage and anger and, trying to get back at someone and shooting their head off with a shotgun and there's blood and gore going, right? That's not Fortnite at all. It's more of a sport. It's more of a who's got the best aim, who's got the best reaction time. And sure that there's killing going on, but it's not a murder type of killing. It's not a Grand Theft Auto type of killing, which is the game that I do not play or recommend people to play, where you are going out in the street, and I'm only mentioning one negative part of this game. You're going on the street and murdering innocent people who are just literally walking down the street with children, right? I don't think that's a godly behavior that God wants to, be engaging in. But Call of Duty Mobile is completely, it's war. It's kill or be killed. It's really more of an activity at that point. And you have to look at the scriptures. The reality is, if the Bible were made into a video game, the Bible would be rated M for mature. There is so much content in the Bible that's not bad, but it might be something that you would not put in a PG movie. I mean, even the Passion of Christ was rated R, just for the blood and gore that's in the movie. Right. And we see throughout scripture that there was acts of killing that happened in the Bible to accomplish the purpose of God. Right. I mean, they were wars. I mean, you can't read the story of David and there'd be no killing involved in it, but it was not hate-filled, vengeance, rage-induced, motivated murders that were going on. And I really believe that even today, God wants to use these video games that I believe are good, that don't have murder, but there might be some violence to accomplish his purposes. Literally, I play a game called Destiny 2, and every single day I get new people in, on average about 50 to 100 brand new people every day, sharing the gospel with them while I'm shooting people in the face playing Destiny 2. But I'm not filled with murder. I'm not filled with anger. It's just a fun sport, kill or be killed, and we're using it for God's glory. But I think it's all about, one, it's monitoring the content your children are consuming. Mm-hmm. And every teenager has a different maturity level. You could have two 14-year-olds, and one realizes this is a game, I shouldn't do this in real life, but the other might not grasp that so well. So parents, you need to know your individual child as well. What can my child actually handle? And then two, understanding that not every video game has that murder type of violence going on, and knowing that difference, I think, is crucial as well.
Right. Well, I bet you've heard that a lot. Like, you've talked to a lot of people who have asked you similar questions, and you've preached on it and you've shared it. I'm like 100 times. I am way over 100 times, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk through it with me now. So let me turn my attention to this. All right. So I got some questions. Yeah. Let me pull them up over here, because in this current state where many of us live under stay-at-home
Yeah.
orders or essential workers only, or leaving house, or only leave house for essential things. Um, your model of ministry is, how has that impacted your model of ministry, I would say?
So honestly, for us, it hasn't impacted our model of ministry, our model at all. I mean, we've been very blessed to be kind of ahead of the curve for the past 4 years when our church started in 2016. Now, obviously, we've been exclusively online, and it hasn't affected our model of ministry at all. It obviously has affected our people, because even though they're gamers, they still have jobs, they're still working at 5. What surprised a lot of people is the average age of hardcore gamer is actually 33 years. So obviously 33-year-olds are by that point mostly working a career, working on the path that they're going to be in probably the rest of life, or at least working some kind of job. If you're not working by 33, right, we've gone wrong somewhere, right? Unless for very specific reasons like disabilities things. But so for our people, obviously it's affected their lives. And obviously, like any church, any leadership, they're helping navigate their people through what's going on in the world. But in terms of our model of ministry, honestly, it's been untouched. We have really remained the same. The only thing that's changed was the postponing of our physical location. But we've been very blessed because things have really gone unchanged for us. We've had all the live streaming equipment that are like sold out worldwide right now, because every church on the planet has been buying every live streaming equipment possible. And so we've kind of already had that in surplus. We've got, backups and backups and backups. And it's been really great because we've actually been able to create resources for other churches that are going in blind, right? Being forced into a world they've never stepped into before. And it's been very humbling to be able to help people, because one thing we've always prayed is, God, in everything we do, help us to help people to do what we do without having to learn and go through all the really hard stuff that we had to go through to get here. And so creating the resources has been a huge blessing to a lot of people. I've had multiple conversations like you and I are having, Pastor Micah, about, hey, what's all this looking like for you? How did you guys get here? How can we do it better? And so it's been a great honor to do that. But how has it affected our model? We've been very blessed to honestly, really not at all. Not only because our church is online, but because the people we reach live their lives on.
Right.
So even for a lot of gamers, besides their job, their normal life is, when I don't have any responsibilities to do, I sit down in a chair and I hang out on the internet world anyway. So it's relatively been a touch for us.
Right. And so you guys stream, what does your service look like?
Yeah.
Because you do stream a service, right? And you stream.
Correct.
And what are the platforms you stream to?
So we stream exclusively to what's called twitch.tv. So we do two types of streaming platforms. One, the reason we stream on Twitch is that is by far exponentially the largest video game streaming platform in the world. Nothing even comes close to it. Not YouTube, not Facebook. Facebook has a gaming section. I'm not sure if you were aware of that.
Yeah.
Not Mixer.
Very recent, right?
Yeah, like I think within a year. Yeah, so not very, very long. Twitch is by far the largest. It's also owned by Amazon, which can probably explain to you why it's dominating the scene. But
so we actually did. So we're using, since we went online. So we've been a small church plant. All right. So we've been that way for a while. We don't have our own facility. We rent space, and then we got hey, no groups more than 10 can meet together. And we said, all right, we're going to pivot. We're going to go all online for right now. We'll see what happens. And so what I used, and I had been doing some streaming to Facebook Live and things like that. So I had like a basic understanding. So then I signed up for a Restream account. Yeah. And so I was like, let's go to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope. Yeah. We're like, Periscope is still a thing? I'm like, yeah, it's still a thing. So, but knowing that we have absolutely no influence on Twitch or Periscope, we have no audience that's built in. So that's the struggle, is like, okay, yeah, it's streaming, but there's nobody on. I mean, there's like one or two people may pop on, but we're not monitoring that very well because we're focusing on the other places, but it's just going right. So you've been on there a long time. Yeah. And you mentioned it's the biggest gaming streaming platform, right? And there are more and more young enthusiasts who would love to be full-time game streamers,
Yeah.
which is probably, it's like, it's such, I think that's a hard thing to get to, the full-time thing.
Yeah,
You
very
got to have a
difficult.
pretty good audience. It's like a professional musician, a professional athlete. Like
Correct.
the amount of people aspiring to it is a lot, and the amount of people who make it is small, right?
Yeah.
Just like any sort of thing like that. So, but there's a lot of people on there, and there's a lot of teenagers on there that are just getting into it, and that sort of thing. But what do you see other people using Twitch at all in any other way? Or do you feel that it's pretty much going to remain a gaming platform?
No. So actually, this is a shift that Amazon has made. I think maybe about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, they started changing everything. It was actually when Amazon bought Twitch. Amazon has not always owned Twitch. And I think they brought a lot of really, really good change, because before it was against the rules to do anything other than video game content. It was against the rules. So kind of to backtrack and answer your question, because I'll tie it into this question.
Sure.
Our services look very, very similar to your normal service. We open up, we got worship, words on the screen. We have a time of offering. We have a message where, I try to do what I believe Jesus did. He spoke in a way that people can understand. I use a lot of video game analogies to help teach the scriptures that I'm teaching. But it's very, very similar to your normal service. Some things that we might do that are different is, we add a lot of lighthearted humor to like our announcement videos, because that's, the gaming community is a very fun place to be. We do giveaways every week as an outreach to bring in new people. But overall, honestly, it's very, very similar to your typical, even physical service. And now our service, since everyone's online, probably doesn't look much different. In terms of the format, we do things that I think are very, very important to live streaming services that would make ours different. But in terms of format, it probably looks very similar to what most people would look at. But before they made that change, it looked very different. The format was similar, but we had to have some type of video games on the screen at all times.
Oh, wow.
So we would have, it was very bizarre. We were experimenting with new ideas. On our first service, I stood in front of a green screen, and the whole background was just video game play, because we have to obey the rules, otherwise we're going to get banned. But we have to have our, our message and our worship. And so even during worship in the corner, there'd be just a small little box of just Halo gameplay, because it just needed to be on the screen. So people are getting shot by snipers in the middle of war. So that was an interesting, phase.
You talk about, I'm sure you had some interesting songs with lyrics about, the blessed blood or something, and someone's getting shot, and you just imagine someone coming in and being like, what is happening right here? And someone's singing about blood. Oh,
that was funny.
Yeah. The service format is very similar to a traditional format of a church. It's just being streamed, and then you have some fun, which a lot of churches are doing. Yeah. Have some fun with the announcements, have some fun in the beginning, sort of thing. Yep. And then you use a lot of gaming analogies to help connect with your audience, since they're already plugged into that. They already know that. You just know your audience.
Correct.
You are your audience. So you're already there. Well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. I mean, there's been a concept for niched churches for a long time, right? There's been skate church, and there's been all kinds of things like that. Yeah. And even people would make an argument for sports churches that they don't consider themselves churches, but they're parachurch organizations that do things in the sports arena or things like that. But you're not a parachurch organization. Correct. You're a church.
Church. Correct.
So, where traditional churches might have small groups or community groups, you guys have gaming sessions, I'm assuming?
No, we have normal small groups too. We call them experience groups, right? Gaining experience to level up in your faith. And so the reality is, and I'm totally aware of the parachurch ministry model. I think it's great. But the reason that with what we do as a gaming church, the reality is we're still reaching people. What brings us together and what keeps us together is not the video game. It's our love for Christ. What brings us together for the first time is our common interest. And in my opinion, it's not very different than any outreach ministry that any church does. Hey, we're going to be handing out, lunch and backpacks to underprivileged people. What's bringing the people together? Their common need of backpacks and meals. We're going to have a couples outreach comedy night. What's bringing people? Their common interest of I'm married and I want to have a fun night tonight. And so it brings people together. Churches are doing it all over the world. They're using one common interest to bring people together the first time. But then what keeps people together is their passion for Christ. People are getting saved. Now they're part of the family of God. The only difference for us is our church is the number one form of outreach is that one common interest. It's just video games. Right. And because a lot of people have similar interests, now that we're all together, sure, we're going to play games together. But for example, our small groups, we're still human beings. We're still people. We still love Jesus. So even at our small groups, they actually, no, they don't play video games. They meet online. They talk about life. They have questions, really in deep, thought-provoking questions based on the message that was preached at the week past.
Okay.
They pray together, and throughout the week, they're staying in touch through their text messages, praying for one another. And then throughout the week, if one of them wants to hang out and play together, sure, they get together and they game, because one of the advantages of being together as a online church is it'd be very, very uncommon for someone to put their kids down to bed, be done for the night, but maybe they're more of a night owl. Like, man, it's 10 o'clock at night. I really want to go hang out with my friends, right? That's not going to happen. Right. I want to go to the church and hang out with the pastor. That's not going to, that's not going to happen. Right. But with the online world, it makes that possible. So honestly, our fellowship, I guess, time percentage is really, it's very, very high, because people can get together with ease of access all the time. And so, yeah, for us, we have a lot of video game themed. A lot of our titles, like the experience groups, are video game themed, because that's what brings the people in.
Sure.
But we're not playing video games during our service. Our service is very similar to another, well, actually, they were just like pre-recorded video. Yeah. But our ministry and the way we keep people connected is just like every other church, really through the power of Christ and the fellowship of the believers.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, okay. So what medium are they using to meet online for their experience groups? So are they using Zoom? Are they using something else?
So there is a very, very commonly used platform in the gaming world. It's called Discord. And so Discord, have you heard of Discord? Mm-hmm. Okay. So Discord, just for anyone that's listening doesn't know, it allows you to have text chat, voice chat, video chat. Yeah, it can almost be like a website where you have these different panels people can click on and they can read information. So we have daily devotionals that go up. People click on it. It's a read-only room, and they can read the devotionals for the day. We have people can put their prayer requests, and other people can respond to it. We have an answered prayer request, because we believe that God just doesn't hear prayers. He answers prayers. And so people, they're like, man, I feel like God doesn't hear me. They go through the answered prayers and like, wow, okay, maybe God does hear people. And I'm just waiting on my answered prayer. And so there's tons of spiritual resources, but then there's just these voice chat rooms where, like, at any given time, anyone can just jump in and hang out with each other. So people are doing that because we have people in all time zones of the world. So people are, I'm sleeping and people are fellowship, which is really, really, it's an incredible privilege. And so that Discord, it has so much access for voice, text, and video chatting that's how we do all of our small groups. Okay. All 10 of the people, they can do a video chat at the same time. But then in that group throughout the week, it also has text chatting, voice chatting. So they're not just meeting once a week, but they're connecting throughout the week, praying for one another. And it's so simple through this Discord app. That's how we do a lot of our pastoral care. We literally have people going into surgery, and several hours before, while they're in the waiting room, they're on a video chat with, one of our staff pastors, praying for them right then. And so Discord for us, we call it the hallways of our church. It's where people spend time together. It's where they hang out. They can share funny pictures. They fellowship. They can put pictures of themselves and be like, hey, I just got a new dog today. And so it's like a video chatting service, social media platform, website, kind of all in one. And like every gamer in the world uses it. So it's perfect for us.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. It just fits the audience, right?
It really does. Yeah.
That's so funny. So tell me, let me get back to my questions here so I can keep us on track. Since, so many churches have shifted to online, right? So most of them won't use Twitch. right?
Correct.
Just because it's not where their audience is. But if a church was going to use Twitch, okay, what is as like one of their digital campuses, not even their main campus, right? I'm using campus because it's a different platform. If they were going to do that, what are a few of the like do's and don'ts, or what would be your recommendations for them?
Specifically for Twitch or just live streaming as well?
Let's go Twitch.
Okay, Twitch. So one, I'd like to kind of pause and just touch on something that you mentioned right there, because I think that this is the mindset that a lot of churches do have. And it's the mindset that a lot of gamers have about what churches think about them. You know, you mentioned that a lot of people won't be on Twitch because that's not where their audience is. But the reality is that gamers they're just normal people too. So for a normal physical church that's really just casting a wide net to reach anyone and everyone, I think Twitch would be a very, very appropriate place to reach people. Gamers are not the kind of people that will only go to a gamer church, because as of 4.5 years ago, it didn't exist, right?
Right.
And gamers have been going to church for a very, very long time. And so that mindset of our audience is not on Twitch, I would almost argue that like, yeah, 100% they are. These gamers, they are people that need the gospel, that want to be reached. The only difficult part is gamers, because of that mindset, think that normal churches, will call them, which is nothing wrong with it. The local church, non-gamer churches are incredible, the hope of the world. But I think that gamers think that, quote unquote, normal churches wouldn't want them because they were a gamer. And we do have unfortunate stories of, you know, before, because I've been live streaming myself on Twitch, sharing the gospel for almost 6 years now. And we didn't start our church till about a year and a half later. So when I first started streaming and didn't have a church to send people to, I would just encourage people like, hey, just go to a church in your area. And then really our church started out of a need, because a lot of people would show up to church in like a Dungeons and Dragons shirt, and they would get those looks, and we would get emails like, hey, I went to a church that you said, like, look up one of my ear, and I did. And they like told me I needed to like change my shirt and then come back. And so I'm never going back there again.
Yeah.
And unfortunately we were hearing those stories more often than we were not. We were having more failed stories and success stories. And so that's really why our church kind of started on Twitch, to kind of meet that need of, okay, unfortunately, this is not working very well. And so, but back to the original question of what would I say are do's and don'ts for churches that want to get on Twitch? Honestly, they're going to be very similar for just live streaming in general. Twitch is not very different than just any live streaming platform. The only difference is most of the people that are watching are probably going to be gamers. And so a lot of the principles are going to be kind of universal. One, you definitely want to make sure that your service is interactive. And I think this is something that every church can benefit from right now. Up until coronavirus hit, there were thousands of churches doing live stream. But what it was the camera was in the back of the room. You just watch what we're doing.
Right.
And live streams need to be an interactive experience where you're acknowledging that people are there. Like, I'm aware that you're there watching and you matter. You're not just a number below the screen representing how many people are here. So Twitch, that's what Twitch is all day. It's very interactive. It's a chat. I'm reading the chat. I'm engaged with people. And so when you're doing services on Twitch or really any live stream platform, I would encourage you to incorporate engaging moments where literally I walk on stage with my phone in my hand and I see the chat. Yo, what's up? You know, fill in the names. It's good to see you. God bless you. I'm also seeing some names that I don't recognize, which means we got people here for the first time. It's good to see you. And the person on the other side of the screen is going, oh, okay, this isn't a YouTube video.
Yeah.
This is a live, engaged experience. My pastor, staff pastor, whatever it may be, just acknowledge that I'm here. I matter. I'm real. And so even just during after the first song of worship, when a person walk up and do the greeting, and he's saying hi to everyone. He's acknowledging, hey, I know that you guys are watching from home. And it's just a little comments of like watching a service online shouldn't feel like a podcast. It shouldn't feel like a YouTube video. Because if that's the case, what's the point of showing up for the live experience rather than just catching the VOD, the past recording later, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, if our service is not engaging and interactive, then no, I don't really want to wake up at 9. I could just watch it at 4:30. It feel the same anyway. You know what I mean? I can watch it. There's no point of us all gathering together because we're not engaged. We're not talking to one another. And so having elements of your service that are engaging, interacting, acknowledging the people there, reading their names, I think very, very, very important. Also, getting proper moderation in the chat is very, very important. We'd love to believe that the internet is a great, kind, and safe place, but unfortunately, it is not. It is not. We call them keyboard warriors, people that would say things online they would never say to your face.
Yep.
And that will happen in your services, and some of it can be very, very inappropriate. And so you definitely want to have people not only there to be police and delete comments, but when trolls, those are the people that come into cause chaos. When trolls enter your stream, it is an outrageous opportunity for ministry. We have an incredibly high success rate of the training of our mods when people do come in, try to disrupt the service, say really nasty, negative things. And literally, we've just trained our people. Like when someone says something bad in our chat, you will just see, like you need to come experience it. It's probably the most beautiful part of our service, where someone says something so negative and you just see like 20, 30, 40 people be like, hey, so glad you're here. God bless you. Now we've removed their ability to speak anymore. But, we're so glad you're here. And so we have what's called the timeouts over 10 minutes. They can't talk anymore. We have it's just not an instant timeout. Depends on what they said, who said it, what their motive. Context is important. But the amount of people that just start welcoming them. Wow. And depending on what the portion of the service, like if it's just the greeting time, like in one of our staff pastors, like they'll call them out like, hey man, hey, we see that you might be someone that here that, that you don't believe in what we believe, but hey, we're glad you're popping in. Hey, all's forgiven. No hard feelings. God bless you. Welcome. Hope you'll stick around for the rest of the service. And those people are just like, what did I just walk into?
Right.
Where am I? And most of the time, I'm not going to say it's every single person, but we have a very high success rate of those people turning around and being like, this is not at all what I thought. I need to see you. I need to see what. And those people will stick around and give their lives to follow Christ. But that starts with proper moderation, but not just police people that like delete, right? We want to delete, but then we want to encourage, we want to remove, and then we want to restore, right? That's kind of our process. Remove the comment, restore that person's trust and faith in our community. Let's reach them. And it's just, I think it's vital for live streaming, proper moderation. And I think a lot of churches just stop at the remove. There's okay, let's just delete the comment. Well, keep everyone else safe,
It's what you'd have to do in a physical situation.
Yes,
right.
Correct.
Because you cannot put them on timeout. You cannot remove their privileges to speak. Right. You can infringe on their amendment rights online. Just kidding. But you can't do it in person. So they will just yell, or they'll, and so they have to physically be removed. Yeah. Few and far between, right? I mean,
of course. And
I've never even had that happen in person.
There could be safety issues, they need to be removed for sure.
Right. So it's a unique opportunity to show them love, acceptance without compromising your community. Yeah. And having a negative impact on everybody else. Whereas you just couldn't do it in person. You just wouldn't be the same. Yeah. Now, I really appreciate your pushback to me on telling me, people are on there that you don't know are on there. I think that's stuff we need to hear. Like that stuff, the shift, the mind frame shift and all that stuff. I think that's stuff that's really important to understand and hear for all kinds of churches, because here's the thing that's going to happen, right? So areas are going to start opening up again. Stay-at-home orders are going to go away. The innovation that the church has right now is going to dial down quite a bit. All those sorts of things. The concentration on communicating and live streaming and all that sort of stuff through the internet is going to just peel way back. There's probably even going to be a negative reaction to it from some people. Like, I'm sick of being online. I hate it. Yeah. I'm going to fast for a year from Instagram or whatever. And because they're like, I hate being on screens because I'm on screen all day for work and I'm on all, whatever. So I think there's going to be quite a dial back from churches on what they're able to do or what they're going to do. Now you are dialing up, trying to dial up your physical presence as well, right? So you're going backwards from not backwards in like a negative sense, but just like you're doing it the opposite way of what most people do. Now, what is the impact you think that opening up a physical location will do to your original campus? Do you think it will have impact at all?
Yeah, I do. And so it's been something we've had to kind of intentionally navigate through, one, with what we communicate, and just the terminology that we use. One, we've been very, very careful to not say we're starting a church, because we're not, right? We've already started a church online. We've reached thousands of people, and those people matter. And it's very easy for all those people online to feel like, oh, well, now they're starting a real church.
Right.
And what we've been doing online all this time has just been kind of a fake thing because we couldn't afford to have a building. And so that is completely untrue. So we've been very, very intentional to communicate. We're starting a second location. So we're moving forward. We're not moving backwards. We're adding something new. We're growing and extending our church family, because it's very easy for people to feel like, because when you do it the other way around, it is, it's very easy to feel like you're less important. And so we've been very, 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 very focused on, we need to create the exact same experience for both people, the exact same opportunity for pastoral care, the exact interaction for the people in person and online. So that's why, like, literally, I mean, we haven't started our physical services, but we do this every year. We do an event called SquadCon, where our community, for the first time ever, they fly in from around the world. We have 3 days of services, video games, water baptism, worship nights, and they meet together. Like, oh, I recognize your voice. They meet for the first time.
Wow.
And so we've done really our model of our new location every year. We're literally we're engaging the online audience while in the middle of the service. Mm-hmm. So we deliberately have portions of our service where, like I said, like, I'll walk up on stage with my phone and I'll say hi to the people. I'm acknowledging. It's just a skill that I've developed because I stream 8 hours a day, every single day, where I'm talking and reading comments at the same time. So I'm reading what my church is saying online while preaching. And so, and I can kind of play off. And it's good for me because no one's shouting amen back at me while I'm preaching, right? It's dead silence. So seeing the comments for the chat is very good. But I'll acknowledge, and sometimes what they'll say will spark a thought in my mind. The Holy Spirit will use it to answer a question, whatever it may be. And so even when we're in person, we are very, very much acknowledging the online presence. Because if we're not, then it just feels like, unfortunately, what a lot of the live stream services is the people in person are the real church. And we just stuck a camera in the back of it. Mm-hmm. And you people that are at home, y'all just watch what we're doing. And so we're very, very, very focused on not doing that. And so we've had to be intentional, because there even were some people like, oh man, like they're starting a real church now. Are we not going to matter as much? So it's definitely been something we've had to navigate through, because a new building, the land center, it seems very exciting and it can feel more important. The reality is it's not more important. Every person matters no matter what campus.
Right. And, I was curious because I wondered if you were going to do them at the same time, or if you were going to do a online service differently than the in-person portion. You know what I'm saying?
And we talked about that for a little while.
Yeah.
Because we tried to, because we asked ourselves the question of, can we have one service that really meets the needs of both? And I'll be honest, we almost were like, no, I don't think we can. And we might need to have 2 services. But then I just told our staff, I was like, I just don't know if I can wrap my mind around the thought that God's not big enough to figure this thing out. I don't know if we can just say, well, no, God's not smart enough to figure out a way to make both services fit both people. And so we just prayed, thought real hard, got creative, kind of like what COVID's forcing people to do right now. Get innovative when you're trying to solve a really hard problem. I think difficulties make you more innovative than ever before. And so we did. We trialed and error, and some of our services were a little wonky. We felt it was more heavily attentive towards physical. Then we went the other extreme. It's almost like the people in the room didn't matter. But then we started kind of finding our sweet spot. And now we just have one service for both. We do rebroadcast our service again at night, where the worship and the sermon are pre-recorded, but everything else is done live, reading the offering. It's got elements, but that one is geared just towards the online. We will not have a second physical service at night.
Right. So quick question. You mentioned pastoral staff. How many people are on your staff?
So we have both paid and volunteer staff right now, full-time staff. So I'm interesting. So technically my role as the pastor is very, very unique. So technically by trade, I'm a full-time video game broadcaster. I'm a full-time Twitch partner. And so about 8 hours a day, I live broadcast on Twitch, which is very, very unique, where I'm getting outrageous amounts of evangelism and outreach. Just literally meeting, I interact with almost an average of 1,000 individual people every day in my live broadcast, and we give God thanks. About probably 200 of those people are new every day, which is incredible. No, I'm not going to say that every single one of them gets saved because part of our church, but they're exposed to our community and hearing the gospel, which is really
you're talking to 1,000 people a day.
About, yeah.
So, I mean, you just think about the average pastor of any size church, and they're not talking to 1,000 individuals a day. Like they're not having that opportunity. They could be in their community like all day long and not run into 1,000 people that they can talk to, depending on where they live. Yeah. So that's just really interesting. Keep going.
So for my job, I'm doing a lot of live broadcasts. Like right when we end this podcast, I'll be going live on broadcast.
Right.
Live on stream today. So a lot of my responsibilities are really, really leading the vision direction of the church. Right. So I'm preparing our sermons because I believe that the sermon steers the ship. Right. I'm leading our staff. I'm leading the direction of our people. I'm casting vision for the future and really bringing the direction of our church. But a lot of when it comes to and I do obviously interact with our people because one, I have meetings with people, pastoral care, things like that. But the unique thing about my responsibility is people almost at any time of the day, as long as I'm live, which is a lot because it's like 8 hours, people come in and they can hang out with their pastor whenever they want. So they come on stream, hey, pastor, just had this happen. Can you pray for me? Hey, let's pause the video game right now. Let's pray together. And I'll pray for them right then. We have people that can even jump on voice chat with me while I'm live on stream. Now, obviously, that needs to be very heavily monitored, obviously.
Right.
But people can come hang out, experience community. Everyone's hanging out in the chat. It just brings a lot of the church together at once. It's a very, very unique where, like kind of you said it, how many people can say that they hang out with their pastor for 8 hours a day, right? It's a very, very unique thing. I'm doing a lot of evangelism, a lot of outreach. But when it comes to the day-to-day responsibilities, we have my wife, who's our executive pastor of the church. And really, she's responsible for the overall day-to-day organizational success of our church, the day-to-day responsibilities of the staff, the day-to-day responsibilities of anything business related that that involves the church, taxes, finances, things like that. So she's handling a lot of that stuff. Really, overall, my wife runs the day-to-day operations, everything going on. Then we have Pastor Ray, who is he's our community care pastor. He handles all pastoral care, both for the online and our new broadcast location. Then we do also have a full-time media director who handles all of our social media, website, videos, graphics, design, all those things. And then we do have my wife's assistant, the assistant to the executive director. Her name is Elizabeth Higgins. And then we have 2 volunteer staff members, our children's director, Tammy Higgins, and Aaron Loy, who is our discipleship pastor. And so we have a total of 7. 5 do get full-time pay from the church, and then 2 are volunteer. And we are all now actually located in Virginia, which at first was not the case. We were all in different states around the country. But luckily, we've been blessed to kind of come together, which has been very, very beneficial.
That's super cool. That's super cool. So how many people would you say are engaged with your church? Like they're returning, fairly frequently to the service. They're engaged in the Discord discussion, that sort of thing. So not that matters, but I think I'm just curious, like how many people are you guys engaging with regularly?
So when you start getting into online ministry, you'll start realizing that that's a hard question to really answer because the numbers are so skewed, and you can dive in and see a lot of it. But so for example, like the number I gave you, right? Even just in my live stream, right? I might have 2,000 to 3,000 views in one day, but one person might have watched for 3 seconds, right? So I'd be a liar to say that person's engaged and filled with the Holy Spirit.
Sure.
Not the truth. But in our church, the number that we gauge off of is really our Discord, which we call, like I said, the hallways of our church. People that are being exposed to our messages, small groups, our just general chat where everyone's hanging out. They're hopping into a game room once a week. Like some people don't attend our services, but they'll attend our game nights, right? Because they don't believe in God, but they're like, I like being around these people. I like gaming with them. And so our Discord has about 3,200 people. Now, is every single one of those watching every service? tithing, giving life to follow Christ? No. But they're engaged in being touched by our ministry on a regular basis in one way or another.
Right. All right. I know I'm almost out of time with you because you got to go live. All right, that's how you get paid. But I got one more question for you, and it has to do with, do you guys have, because I know you were recently in a competitive, you were in a competitive gaming competition, right? That was kind of like you were trying to get through that season before we could have a conversation.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So does the church have a team, or has the church had a like an esports team?
So the competition that I was in was actually not video game related. It was a sponsorship deal that I was doing. So it was sales related. If you sold the most, you won. So it wasn't a video game competition, but to actually answer your question, not yet. That is something that we do want to get into in the future, but getting into the esports scene is a multi-million-dollar industry. It is if you want to do it right. And with esports, if you don't do it right, just don't do it at all. You're just not going to go anywhere. And I don't think it would represent the kingdom well to be that church that has the worst esports team on the planet. Because that's what everyone would think we'd have, and it would be proving them right? And so it's something we do want to do, because I believe that the esports world, it's a missions field, man. Like the reality is, I mean, there's a prestigious level where, just like with really any group in the world, a lot of times people only associate with people within the world. And so for the esports people, the top 1% of players in the world, they're only interacting with other top 1% players. And so how do we get into the top % of 1 players and reach those top % players? We got to be one of those players. That's not going to be me. I'm pretty good at video games, but I'm not the top 1%. And so I really believe like we've got to get like an esports coach who's going to be like their chaplain, like their pastor, who's really ministering to the whole player and helping them win at life, not just win at the competition, but also pushing them to be that 1% for the purpose of, hey, if we had a church that was winning world competitions, how much exposure would that get for the gospel?
Right.
If we had those individual players who were missional minded, and not just, I got to win the competition, but I got to win souls in the locker room when I'm sitting back there with the other players and I'm on stage, I'm building relationships, when we're practicing together online, being intentional to reach those people, because those people won't watch my stream because my gameplay, it's just not on their level. They're like, oh, this guy's terrible. I'm not watching this guy. I'm not terrible, but compared to them, I'm terrible, right? And so they're like, I'm not going to sit here and watch this guy, play 100 times worse than I am per hour, when I could be watching someone else that I can actually learn from. And so we need 100% doing that, but we have not dived into that world yet, just because, like I said, it's a multi-million-dollar industry that I pray that, and I believe God will bring us to one day so we can accomplish that goal. But we're not able.
Yeah, I just asked the question because it's growing, right?
Yeah,
so the interest is growing. Even our local school districts here are starting to, there's plans for an esports arena at one of the schools, because it's going to start to become people are going to start to see it as an option, instead of like, hey, Tommy, you want to play baseball? You want to play soccer? You want to play video game, like you want to be in band, it's going to be seen as something, an extracurricular or something. And it's going to be seen that, and there's going to be more and more universities offering scholarships or partial scholarships for their esports teams. It's minimal right now, but it's growing. So, so that's the reason I asked the question, is just because it's a growing sector. It's a growing community, and I can see that there's opportunity there for the kingdom. So
massive opportunity.
That's it, man. Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're in front of a screen a lot, so taking another hour and adding it in front of the screen and taking it away from whatever else you'd be doing right now. I really appreciate that. I'm going to be posting this podcast probably in about a week or so. I'll let you know. Yeah. And hopefully it's helpful to somebody who's out there who's trying to figure out how to do live streaming, do ministry online, something like that. I mean, people have been doing online ministry for a long time. It's just been seen, I think, as a less than ministry. I remember way back when Life Church started a virtual campus. I can't remember what it was called, the service. It was like people would go in and they would have avatars and they would walk into a a building and they would sit down in a church in this online world. And, it was totally bizarre, but it was like a total experiment into online church, what that would be like. And I'm glad that we didn't live there. I'm glad that we didn't stop there in terms of like, hey, I'm going to go into this pretend building and sit down in this pretend pew and watch this screen of an actual person. And we've figured out better ways to do that. But it's been seen as less than, and I appreciate you pioneering, and letting us learn from you and letting all of us learn from you. And hopefully more and more people can utilize their gifts, whatever they may be, to reach kind of people like them online, because so many people are living there. I'm just telling you, I'm going to have a conversation. It's truth. It's going to come out later, but I'm going to have a conversation tomorrow with a friend of mine who's been doing something called Insta Church Live, where they've been doing live streaming churches on Instagram. And then recently he started doing it to Twitch and also YouTube. And nice. So he's doing a bunch. And on Easter, they had over 1,000 people watching Instagram alone. So he lives in Hawaii. He used to live here locally in California. And so I remember when he started, I kind of went to one of their first live recordings, and then he had to move to Hawaii, and he had to move to Hawaii. So, so now they're streaming different time zones. So it's really interesting to see, but it's just him and his wife, it's just two people, and they're trying to figure out how to make it work. Wow. Financially and all that kind of stuff, but they're reaching a lot of people, and their services are like 12 minutes. It's like a song, a message, and a prayer. Wow. And that's it. And then he releases like little snippets of content all the time, and, and all that stuff. But anyway, something you should check out too. That's pretty cool. Check it out. Yeah. Yeah. But man, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. No, and thank you for the opportunity. It's been an honor. Yeah. No, I really do appreciate it. From all the way from California. Good luck. God bless you. I hope that you are blessed so much more. And keep it going, man. Keep it going. Pastor Mike, it's good to talk to you. God bless you, my friend. Bye-bye. Appreciate it. All right, bye. Well, thank you so much for joining us and watching or listening to this entire episode. Just to let you know, my wife and I also own a virtual assistant agency called dreamsupport.club. That is the website, dreamsupport.club. So if you need some virtual assistant help, if you need some help with administration, with your business, or anything that you are trying to tackle, whether it's a dream or a profession, we want to support you. We want to help you. So go to that website, check it out, drop us a line if you have any more questions. God bless you, and I hope to see you next time from the Garoffice.